Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the match preview with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, John Gibson. Sadly, this week, not beside me in the studio, but ladies and gents, I'm bringing some good news. We have just put it in the diary. All things being well, John will be back alongside me for the preview ahead of the Everton game, of course, the final game of this season. But before we get to that, we've got the preview, Newcastle's trip down to the Emirates. And John, I can't quite believe that I'm saying this, but it is the race for second.
Yeah, it's fabulous, isn't it? Because literally it is. And if anybody had said that to you or to me uh, before Christmas, twice early in the season, Newcastle dropped to 12th in the table on two separate occasions. And bear in mind, we hadn't won a trophy then either. So no trophy in 12th. And if we'd said at that moment, by the way, don't worry, guys, because by the time this season's out, we'll finish second and we'll have won a trophy. We would say, you're mad, you. It's crazy, isn't it? Let's not get carried away by this second because it's a high hurdle to jump. Is Arsenal away? I know we've done it already, but it's a high hurdle to jump. And in a way, it almost doesn't matter, Andrew, between 2 and 5 because of the same reward at the end of the season, we've still done our double, which is win a trophy and get in the Champions League. However, having said that, it would be rather nice to finish second in the table because it would be our best finish in 28 years since the entertainers did it in 96 and 97, which is some record. But even more so, it would equal our best finish in almost a century because the only time we finished above second is when we won the championship way back in 1927 when Yuri Gallagher was both captain and top goal scorer. So, I mean, nearly a century, that would be phenomenal. But we are getting above ourselves. But let us indulge. We haven't been able to do that in quite a while, and now we can. Um, we've got a big hurdle. We've got to beat Arsenal, and then it goes without saying that we've got to get 3 points against Everton. But if we beat Arsenal, we will be clear of them with only one match to play. So if we beat Everton at home, it doesn't matter that Arsenal's got a tame finish against Southampton because we would be there. But we've got to beat Arsenal to be there. A draw will not get us second because, as I say, they've got Southampton on the last day. But I mean, I can talk comfortably about the possibility of finishing second because it'll not be the end of the world if we don't. Because, in my humble opinion, beating Chelsea, the 3 points we've got virtually guaranteed us, virtually, playing in the Champions League next season because with the goal difference worth an extra point, we're virtually there. We need 3 points, I think, to make certain. And if they don't come at Arsenal, they should come against Everton.
What do you think the message will be this week from Eddie Howe? Will it be go out there and get 3 points because that pretty much nails us down for Champions League next season? Or will it be go out and get us 3 points because we will be then second?
I don't think he'll go into the second situation because Eddie's not nicknamed Steady Eddie for nothing, and he wants to keep it steady. And the way you keep it steady is try to win the next game. And he always comes out with that quote, doesn't he? I never think beyond the next game. We focus on winning the next game. Of course, he knows if we win the next game, we've got some real chance of finishing second. As I say, it's important for prestige. And if you're a player, I'd want to finish second. You finish Premier League runners up and win a trophy. It's Newcastle United, who have had no success for how many years we keep talking about it. And then you would want to do that. But as I say, we're getting carried away. A draw would be a terrific result for me, and it would be a point near the Champions League. But then we've got to go and do the job on the final day against Everton. And we mustn't accept that, Andrew, as a gimme. I'm almost accepting it as a gimme. The big game is Arsenal because then we play against Everton. We're at home. It's the final game of the season. All the bunting's out, and we just automatically get 3 points. We ought to, but we've got to go out and do it. But really, we're in almost a luxurious position because we can go to Arsenal, and as long as we finish five or above in position two, three, four, five, we're in the Champions League.
I mean, how important, John, is it though not to let complacency slip in? Because you have just said there, virtually it's done and dusted. I think a lot of people after Sunday's win over Chelsea felt the same as well. There was a massive relief around the stadium when Bruno's goal went in. But you look at the table. Arsenal second, 68 points. Newcastle third, 66. City fourth and 65. Chelsea fifth and 60 with 63. And Aston Villa on 63 points as well in sixth. And then Forest 62 lies seventh. So it's still incredibly tight. And it is kind of one of those where one loss and your outlook
Oh,
looks
yes.
totally different. So it feels like it's pretty much done. It's great to be in this position. Great to be feeling so optimistic and positive and confident, but we've got to make sure, or the players have got to make sure, that the job is done and that they're not they don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think they will. They're a two level-headed bunch. They fought their way through all the season to get to where they are now. I don't think they're going to get the flip-flops out with two games to go, and it's not automatic yet. And that's why I'm saying, as we go down to Arsenal, we can finish second, third, fourth, or fifth and be quite happy. It's six where we would feel a killer. But to be honest, if we finish six now, we would be hugely disappointed, wouldn't it? And we would be unexpected. We've worked hard to get in the position we are. I mean, I thought the 3 points against Chelsea, bearing in mind it was against a team that's in real opposition to us, was the turning point in virtually making certain we go into the Champions League. Because regardless of what we do with Arsenal, I've got a feeling that, at home with 52,000, the last day of the season, celebrating winning a cup, celebrating making the Champions League, can you see us get beaten? That's for us to talk about next week. But I can't. I think we're far too level headed these days. The only thing that bothers me, of course, is that we keep picking up injuries, and he keeps them to himself until the team's announced. And he said a couple of players are struggling for the Chelsea game. They were struggling all right. They had no chance of playing. And that made a big difference. And well done him for the way he organised the team without them. But we're getting down to the bare bones when you take Lewis Hall and Joe Linton and Willock and Trippier out of the team. We are beginning to get down to the bare bones, and it worries me that Botman is now perhaps in a position where we're not certain about him for Sunday. But if we go about the job the right way, we'll be okay.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about Newcastle's potential team before we make a deep dive into Mikel Arteta's meltdown at the moment, because we do have to talk about that and share a laugh or two. But Newcastle's potential starting 11 is going to be really interesting, because I think it all rests around Sven Botman, if I'm being honest, and
Yes,
his fitness. Now, Eddie Howe said he had to have an ice pack on his knee at half time when he came out, and then he for the second half, but he sharply made an exit, and Eddie Howe changed things around, and it worked quite well. He also said that was a bit of a tactical switch as well, not just about Botman's fitness. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Botman this week, because John, when he came back against Chelsea, he looked like he'd never been away. He was so cool and calm and collective, and he was just really, really good, I thought. We also have Jamal Lascelles. He was on the bench, so he could be potentially an option, although I'm not sure Eddie Howe would maybe throw him straight into a game of this magnitude. Obviously, Botman was kind of gently ushered back into first team football. Let's say Botman is fit, John. He's past fit. Do you remain with five at the back?
yes, you do. I think you do. It worked tremendously in the first half against Chelsea. If you remember, it worked very, very well against Arsenal at Arsenal in the League Cup. I think you definitely go with a five. It's the best use of the players available to you as well, because it frees up a situation where you get round the midfield position of Joe Linton not being available. It gets you both Murphy, Bonds, and Gordon in the starting 11, which is very difficult to do and is a good way of making that happen. I mean, I worry about Botman because the same as Joe Linton, it's a knee. And knees are difficult for footballers, and it's the same knee, etc., etc. And it does worry me. He's a Rolls Royce of a player. He's a wonderful player, and it does worry me because I don't know how easy it is to go with a five if you haven't got Botman. I would suggest if you haven't got Botman and you want to go with a five, it's Kraft that'll come in. I don't think Lascelles will start for 1 second. He's been out almost a year. He's played 45 minutes against Celtic B in a behind closed doors friendly, and we're talking about him coming back to play against Arsenal with Champions League on the line. No chance, in my humble opinion. He'll be on the bench, but he'll start Lascelles. There is no chance he'll start Lascelles. Lascelles isn't ready. Nowhere near. He only played 45 minutes against Celtic B, and it's his first game in a year.
No, I agree with you. I don't think there's any chance Lascelles starts that game, but I also don't think Eddie Howe will play five at the back if Botman's not available, simply because it removes an option halfway through the game to bring Emil Kraft on at right back, which I think he needs that option. We saw on Sunday it was Murphy, obviously in a five it was Murphy who was having to play wing back with Livramento on the left hand side. But if Kieran Trippier's not available, then there's a chance that if Newcastle go to a four, it would be Emil Kraft at right back with Cher, Byrne, and Livramento at left back. I mean, you could move Byrne to left back and Livramento at right back, but then who plays at centre? Like, there's a lot of outcomes that we can't really nail down until we know how fit these players are. But I just think if Botman's not available, then he'll go back to a four, and you're likely to see maybe Emil Kraft play at right back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you could play a five with Emil Kraft in Murphy as your wing back, and then go to a flat back four if need be during the game by moving Kraft from centre half to right back, and then ditch Murphy as he did against Chelsea. That was the way he had the system against Chelsea, and then he changed it to a flat. You could do that again during the game. I don't think he'll pick a side worrying about what he can do during the game with his subs, because he's got to pick a side that starts and lays the foundations to get a result. And it's no good saying, "Well, I'll have Kraft on the bench because I can bring him on it right back in the second half," because you might be two down by then. Yeah, I think he's got to pick a side that he believes and a system that'll get a result. I would hope Botman plays, but I'm concerned, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he doesn't. And I mean, if he doesn't, and Trips doesn't, and Joe Linton doesn't, they're three. I know we'll get on to Arsenal in a minute, and they've got a few big names out, but they've got more depth than us. Perhaps not at centre forward, etc., but they've got more depth over the whole squad. And that we've got Lewis Miley that can come into a situation, of course, in the midfield. But I think the whole selection of Newcastle United revolves, as you rightly said before, there round Botman.
No, indeed, and I get what you're saying about not picking a team to, and I'm worrying about what you're going to do, through the game. But I also do think that plays a little bit of a part in Eddie Howe's team selection, because while he could play five at the back and then halfway through take Murphy off and move Kraft over to right back and play a four, you're thinking, well, he did that on Sunday against Chelsea, Kraft coming on for Murphy, simply to try and stop Chelsea down that side, because they were just hitting Murphy every single time and winning that battle. Now, if Arsenal do the same, but all you can do is move Kraft over, who's ran his socks off for the best part of 60 minutes at centre back. Is that going to have the same impact that he had against Chelsea, where he was fresh? And that's just a little bit of worry in my head. But I get what you're saying, John. It's better to start with your strongest team and set those foundations for the result, rather than worrying how you can impact the game later on. But it just shows you the depth isn't there, is it, at the moment?
Oh, it's a worry. It's a real worry. And when you get injuries to key players like Cripps and Joe Linton and Botman, you're really up against it. You're right, and you would expose Murphy in that situation, and perhaps it's easier to work that at home. Although, as I say, he did a 5 down at Arsenal. It's the whole thing's a concern. He could start, as you rightly say, with a flat back four to start with. But if he does that and he has Kraft at right back, Andrew, does he play Murphy and Bonds and Gordon? Or does he bring in Miley into an orthodox midfield? What do you do with Murphy if you play Kraft right back in a flat back four to start with? Or do you, if you don't want to risk Murphy in an away game being exposed defensively? It's intriguing. But I tell you one thing that's reassuring, that when he's had his back against the wall, Eddie, tactically this season, and I'm thinking of Wembley, and I'm thinking of Arsenal in the League Cup semis, and I'm thinking of Chelsea, he's come up. He's been quite innovative. I mean, what we did in the first half against Chelsea, when we were better in the first half hour with 11 against 11 than we were in the second half when we had 11 against 10. But what he come up with at the start of that game was excellent and was quite innovative and was quite clever. And I'm leaving it up to him to come up with the same sort of idea at Arsenal to get us out of a hole there.
But just to confirm, if there's no Botman, you are playing Kraft in a 5, yeah? If it was you?
I think I would do. I don't know that he would, but if he wants to go with a 5, and I think a 5 was successful, and Kraft can play in that position as well as he can play right back, and he is on his right side. If he's in a 3, I would probably go with Kraft and let what was very successful early on against Chelsea, and a format that was successful at the Emirates, go with it again.
Let us know in the comments what you guys would do in terms of that 5 at the back. In midfield, obviously Joe Willock missed the game against Chelsea, and whether he'll be back before the end of the season remains to be seen. But both Bruno and Tonali put in an absolute shift. I mean, Tonali, we're running out of things to say about him. Each week he just puts in this performance where it kind of takes your breath away. He was superb against Chelsea again. And of course, Bruno, I said this on the Monday show. It just seems like those big moments when you need your big players and you need your captain to step up. He might have maybe had a below par game in some people's minds, but when you need him to step up, he just loves it. He just seems to just be able to do it. And it obviously takes a little bit of a deflection, ends up in the back of the net. But against Arsenal this Sunday, John, these are games again where he seems to really just find himself and kind of, starts that conversation again about him being £100 million midfield. And it all seems to happen after brilliant performances against top teams like Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, if we've got Mad Dog on the touchline, we've got Mad Dog on the pitch in Bruno, haven't we? He's a mischief maker, and I say that as a compliment, as well as having a great range of passing and a wonderful enthusiasm. He's a mischief maker, isn't he? He's like the Mad Dog. He goes out there and he starts fires. If I've talked about Tonali putting fires out, at the other end of the pitch, Bruno likes to light fires. He starts little skirmishes and little things happening, and it's the way he gets going, and he gets the crowd up, and he gets his teammates up, and he's almost he is a mischief maker in a very positive way for Newcastle United. And we needed. I mean, I talked in the podcast we did last week that we needed were blue chip players to turn up against Chelsea, and two of them that really did turn up were Tonali and Bruno. And I thought in the first half, Gordon turned up because the right back, Casido, almost killed him. I mean, how the heck he didn't get a red card before Nicholas Jackson did, I don't know, because he just about sat Gordon down every time Gordon got the ball. So we had blue chip players that turned up in that game, and we'll need them to do that again down at the Emirates, no question about that, because Arsenal, having lost to us 3 times, and we deprived them of being. They haven't won a trophy for 5 years, which in Arsenal's books, with their fans, is as long as we waited for a trophy in our, and they would have been in the League Cup final. but for us. So we deprived them of that well and truly, home and away, and took 3 points off them at our place. So they will be thirsting for revenge, which makes it difficult.
It certainly does. And we'll just run through then the teams, or Newcastle's team at least. So first off, Botman is fit. So Nick Pope. You then have Jacob Murphy, Share, Botman, Byrne, and Tina Livramen. So then into midfield with Bruno, Antonelli, and then you'll have Gordon on one flank, Barnes on the other, and Isak up top. So an unchanged start 11.
Yeah, yeah. I've got an awful feeling we're not going to get lucky with Botman, but I'm praying that we do. I really am, because he's quality and we need him. And I don't want the kid getting depressed because he's every time he seems to get a comeback, his knee gives way again, and he's got to be missing. I mean, it's going to play on the boy's mind if he misses Arsenal and Everton. It's going to play on the boy's mind during the summer.
No, indeed. So hopefully he manages to get past fit and starts the game against Sunday. But let's see, doesn't John? We'll go with obviously Pope. See, and then this is the interesting one because I made the point about not having Kraft on the bench to change things midway through the game. But then if he goes forward at the back, Murphy looks very uncomfortable at right back. So I would have to say if he goes forward at the back, you'd have to say Kraft at right back,
Oh
Share,
yeah,
Burn, Livramento, and then
which
it's a
is fine.
question of who plays right midfield. Murphy obviously gets the assist, and it was a beautiful cross. But Barnes, I thought, looked really busy. Gordon, is he fully fit yet? But I think Gordon actually probably is the one that starts. Is guaranteed to start on the left. Then it is a flip of a coin. I don't know who would you start if it was a four at the back, and then we're looking at that
It's a
right wing.
4 with crafted right back and two obvious centre halves, etc. It's a very good point because we know how much he loves Murphy. We know how Barnes has really taken his opportunity, and I thought Gordon did very well when he come on, and he won't drop Gordon. So you've got to say he's going to go Murphy or Miley. And if he plays a flat back four, you've almost got to think it would be Miley, because is Murphy a midfielder? He's a winger or wing back. They can go backwards and forwards, but could he play in an orthodox midfield three? I mean, anybody can if you put them there, but would he do it well? And so you've got a choice then of going Murphy or Miley.
Yeah, so essentially, you'd keep Barnes on the right, Gordon on the left, and bring Miley to the middle.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, I feel better with the other system only because of what's available to us. Um, Murphy is defensively vulnerable. Of course he is. He's a winger, for goodness sake, but he off makes a good fist of trying to do his defensive work and getting back there. And it can work in a five like that. Kraft in a flat back four. The back four looks great. I'm not, because Kraft's honest to goodness, he'll do your job for an hour and a half or a one off every now and again. That's great. But then the midfield, I would be tempted I would go with Miley in midfield. If I had to go the orthodox 4-3-3, I would go Miley with the two regular boys, and I don't see how you can drop Barnes or Gordon, and it's very difficult. I know also to drop Murphy, but you can't play 12.
Yep,
And the best way
indeed.
of keeping Barnes and Gordon in the team with Murphy is going the way he went with Chelsea.
Hmm. And then just a quick word on Alexander Isak. Another frustrated figure that he cut against Chelsea on Sunday. Nothing came off for him. He's really, really out of sorts. And we say this every week, it seems like, John. It's going to click this Sunday for Alexander Isak, isn't it?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I really do hope so, because we need it too desperately. I mean, we've got a centre forward and they haven't. And they wish they had our centre forward. So let that inspire him, not distract him. And he's had a fabulous season in terms of numbers. He needs to get back to his very best. I think, he scored once in open play since April the 2nd, because we've been talking penalties. And he hasn't looked at his best, or he hasn't looked vibrant in any way, uh, but he is unquestionably quality. His mere presence worries sides because then it be uh, relax for a moment because he might take advantage of that. But we need a big finish to the season for Isak. And considering the goals that he's had and the goal totals over the last season, it would owe himself. And I don't want to bang on about him because it looks as if I'm on his case, and there's no greater fan of Alexander Isak than myself. But I just want him to look happy, just to look that he's content, just to look that, for goodness sake, Alex, if you decide to make it bang bang the next two games, we can finish second top and have won a trophy. Are you then anxious to go away? Is there then any need to go away? No, there isn't. So the grass is not greener automatically on the other side. It really isn't. Um, so come on, my son, we'll love you to death. Put them to the sword. Get another couple of goals against Everton. We finish second. You've got a trophy in the back pocket. You'll go a long way in your career to have a better season than that.
Indeed. And yeah, it's going to click this Sunday for Alexander Isak. And before we look at some statistics and some of the form table, we're going to talk about Arsenal's injuries, as John mentioned. Now, the time of recording this, my colleague down in London who covers Arsenal, Tom, he will be providing the view from the opposition on Friday's episode. He's just posted that Kai Havertz has returned to Arsenal training, and Trossard and Declan Rice as well, who are both being assessed ahead of this weekend, have also been spotted. So three potential returnees there for Arsenal, three big name players, although one of them hates playing against Newcastle and gets wound up so easily, Mr. Havertz. But what do you make of that news, John? I mean, look, like I say, they don't traditionally maybe perform against Newcastle United, those three players, especially not this season. But if Arsenal have at least one of those three back, it's still a boost for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, crikey, any side would want Declan Rice back, wouldn't they? Because overall, he's a quality player, and if he can get into the side, they will be well pleased. You've got to get a centre forward, whether that's Havertz, whether it's Trossard, or whether you put Martinelli in there, which the Arsenal fans have wanted to see. You can't play Mourinho there because he can't play against his old club Newcastle, having got the red card. So they're in a slight disarray. The manager's not helping them, Andrew, because he looks as if he's lost the plot to a certain extent. He looks as if he's cracked under all the pressure and the sustained pressure of trying to stay top, trying to win the Champions League. I mean, the fallout from the Champions League must be horrendous for them because, they were going so well, and they would think we could get to the final, and then all of a sudden they don't. So that's not going to wear well for them. But we've got to forget about what team they put out and concentrate on the fact we've beaten them three times when they could put out anybody they like. So let's do it again.
Do you think the fact that we have beaten them three times this season plays any bearing on what happens on Sunday?
I think it must with them. They must wonder whether we are their jinx side. I think it must with them. You can't say that on the law of averages, surely to goodness we can't beat them four times in a season, four times out of four. On the law of averages, you could say that. And I would understand you saying that. But also it must, in 1 point will guarantee them their Champions League place. And 1 point would do for me down there as well, because if we get three against Everton, then we are really cooking on gas. Uh, yes, I think it'll bother them. It'll certainly bother somebody like Arteta. I'm just wondering what he's like at the moment, day to day, because the things that he's coming out with. Remember, they were 2-0 down at Liverpool. They got back to 2-2. And instead of coming out publicly and saying this is one of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus and all this sort of thing, he come back and said, what a disgrace we were in the first half, etc. If you're a player and you've just come back from 2-0 down away to the champions to 2-2 and your manager's slaughtering you for your first half performance, you might just think, hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute, Gaffer. What about what second half performance, etc. Um, he seems to have got himself a little bit, and of course, it's incredible, isn't it? He finishes second virtually every season, and people are sort of suggesting or talking down in London or the national press or the ex-footballers, you know. Should there be a change in management? Can he take them any further, etc., etc.? That's quite incredible. In the meantime, we've got two people they are going to manage Manchester United in Spurs in the UEFA Cup final, both of whom deserve the sack. And one of them is going to end up in the Champions League alongside us next season. What a disgrace that is. Spurs and Manchester United, nobody's fault. The rules are the rules are the rules are the rules. But I mean, I object to them getting. I mean, that fourth bottom and fifth bottom and they're going to get in the Champions League next season and have open to them for the summer transfer market all the riches we have earned through blood, sweat, and fears for 9 months. They're going to be handed the same for the season, the domestic season they've had. Incredible, isn't it?
It certainly is. But I also think talk of Arteta leaving isn't all that fairy tale. You can't spend the money he has, the best part of 700 million, and not win a trophy. Arsenal thought this would be their year. And I think you can tell by the comments that he made after the Champions League exit about how his team were the best team in the competition. And he is rattled. And obviously he made those
Oh, yes.
comments about not being beaten by anyone in the top six over the last couple of years. And you just think he's either trying a few mind games before the big game on Sunday, or he's actually that deluded and disrespectful to Newcastle United. But we can't get sidetracked by Arteta. We know that it's very easy to wind him up. I think you will see him tense on the touchline. I think Jason Tyndall will be doing his best on Sunday as well. I
And
don't
he's
think it'll
best
take very
pretty
much.
good. He's best pretty good, Mad Dog.
Yeah, and we know he's got a short fuse as Arteta, so I think that will definitely play some part of Newcastle's game plan on Sunday. But you look at the form. The last 10, Newcastle have won 7, drawn 1, and lost 2. Arsenal's last 10, won 3, drawn 6, and lost 1. So it's not brilliant. Newcastle, though, on the road in the last 6, won 2, drawn 1, and lost 3. Of course, they drew at Brighton last time on the road. Arsenal at home in the last 6, won 2, drawn 2, lost 2, just 1 win in the last 4. So things have slightly come off the tracks for Arsenal. And I actually don't think, John, there's a better time to be playing them because they're hurting. And while, of course, some will be expecting a reaction, I just think this is the best time for Newcastle to play them.
I think you're probably right. I think you're unquestionably right. Can we make it 4 out of 4? That's a heck of that's a heck of a bitch's book to jump. Um, I think so much of it depends. I know they've got injuries, but they've got much better strength in every way bar centre forward. Um, but I think it depends on our injuries, Andrew. If we have Trips out and Joe Linton out, and could either of them return in this game? I mean, what a boost that would be. But if we have Trips out and Joe Linton out and Botman out, whole we accept it's been for a while, then that changes things. If we're looking at a back five and can we've got to put Kraft in, or can we have to go to a 4 and play him right back? And then what happens with Murphy? I think the team selection has got a lot to do with. We need Botman to be fit, really. But it is a good time to play them, and you can see, if you wish, any one of the 3 results happening: win, lose, and draw. You could actually make a case out for any one of the 3.
Indeed, and I guess just having one of those players back that we've mentioned who are doubt Botman, Trippier, Joe Linton would be absolutely
Oh yes.
massive. I think obviously we've missed out Willock off the list there, but I don't think even if he is fit that he's in for this game at all. Trippier is probably the most likely one alongside Botman. I think to be back, Eddie Howe, as usual, was very vague in what the prognosis is. Joe Linton, despite Eddie Howe's best efforts to get my hopes up, was not available for Sunday, and I don't think actually is likely to be available for this Sunday, which is a shame because it would be a huge boost to have him back and involved against Arsenal. But I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But what a game to come. Very, very excited for it. Just a reminder, this episode is sponsored by NordVPN and Crown Trade as well. All the links in the podcast description box. So do click on that and take advantage of some superb offers from our sponsors. John, before I get your result prediction, because we don't do scores. Before I get your result prediction, I've got a few questions sent in that I want to put to you, if that's all right. So this one emailed in by Mark. He says, John, do you think any of these players are fighting for their futures at Newcastle United and therefore will be working even harder in the last two games?
There's a fair old question. In the starting 11, I don't think really anybody's fighting for the future, because I think the future's nailed on. There's people on the bench. What's the future of Lascelles? What's the future of Callum Wilson? What's the future of Joe Willock, who might or might not be involved? In terms of the bench at Arsenal, I'm talking about. There's people fighting for the futures, but hey, if you can go second, if you're going to make the Champions League anyway, and you've got a pot, you don't have to fight for your future and try harder. You should be bursting your britches and your braces right now to take this advantage, and then go off on your summer holidays and have the suntan cream and the flip flops. It's a good question, Mark, and that can often be the case, but I don't think it's necessary here, and I don't think anybody in our starting level, the future is in doubt anyway.
No, I agree with you on that one. But thanks, Mark, for sending the question. Davey has emailed in and says, John, what is your view on the news that Newcastle are to change their crest?
Yes, I was wondering if that if that was going to come up. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, if you're a traditionalist like I've been, etc., we seem to be facing quite regularly major decisions like, are we going to change our ground? Never mind what crest. I mean, it's still be St James's Park, and it'll only be like shoehorned a few hundred yards away. But we're facing that all the time. I like the tradition of the crest we have. I think we ought to remember, Andrew, it's the crest that won us our first trophy in 70 years. The crest didn't do it, but it's on the shirts of the team that did do it. Not to mention all the people that'll be going to the tattooists to try to get the crest taken off the arm and the new crest put on the arm. But it depends what the new one looks like. And I will tell you more when I say it if it's horrendous, and I don't want it to happen. But at the moment, I'm more concerned about. I am concerned. I'm not being flipped, but I'm more concerned about where the ground's going to be, whether we're going to finish second or fifth, and is Isak going to be happy, and is he going to burst all the goal records, or etc. etc. And now, is everybody going to stay with us, and how many new players are going to come in? So the badge goes down the list behind that lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the right approach to take. Let's wait and see what the options are before we make a proper judgment on it. But of course, everyone's opinion is valid. The final question, John, this one's sent in by Katie, and you guys can send in your questions to the EIBW podcast at reachplc.com. So send us an email. Alternatively, I am on X and on Blue Sky as well. Just search for me. The EIB podcast is also on Twitter, and you can leave us comments and I will get back to you guys. So Katie has emailed in and says, Eddie Howe reaffirmed it's a big summer for transfers. So just for context, he said this after the game against Chelsea in one of his questions to the media. Presses the media's questions for him, so his answer to the media. And Katie says, how important is it that we see something happen early in the transfer window.
Yes, I like that thought, Katie, because there always seems, and I never follow Andrew why. Why do teams sign just before the deadline? I know it can concentrate minds if we don't get this guy now, we're running out of time. But I'm a great believer. They've had since January, not just Newcastle, every club has. You've had since the end of January time to, you're not just starting after Everton with, oh, right, now what positions would we like and who would we like to sign? You're doing all that now. And get them in early because what I want to see is the day Newcastle United report back for training, we've got at least three faces reporting back. And that means they play in all the preseason games to get to know their teammates, etc., etc. Please do that. Don't sign them after the first game of the season before the window's shut. Yes, if necessary, I'll take that. But don't get all the signings. Get them in early because it reassures fans. It reassures players that are already here. It reassures Isak and Gordon and Joe Linton and Bruno that they're right to be staying here because look, we've finished in a Champions League position. We've won a trophy and we're already starting to sign new players to bolster the squad. Because, by the way, we are in Europe now because of the Conference League we got through the League Cup and we're going to be in the Champions League. We cannot go there with the squad we've got. We can't fight on four fronts next season with the squad we've got. We've got to sign players. So Katie's right. Let's get them in early. Let's get them used to the setup here. Let's get them training from day one with the squad and playing in all the preseason games. Don't leave it late. What's the advantage in that?
No, I agree with you. I'm equally as frustrated when we get a transfer deadline day and everyone's flapping around to sign someone. It's like you can actually work on deals outside of the windows. So let's hope that Newcastle United have done that. And as soon as the window opens on June the 1st, we get at least one through the door because that would be a huge start to the summer. And I agree with you. The earlier they get in, the more time Eddie Howe has to work with them. And we know Eddie Howe likes to do that as well. So fingers crossed he gets his wish. John, how is this one going to go on Sunday?
Oh, great question. I would love to say we're going to make it 4 out of 4 and really stick it up them and be second going into the last day, etc., etc. I in no way want us to lose because I said way back, if you remember, where I think it was 7 games to go when you asked me, Andrew, to where we would finish in the table, and I said if we remain unbeaten between now and the end of the season. We're in the Champions League. And with the draw we got at Brighton, um, we will remain unbeaten if we get something at Arsenal. And because we don't expect to lose at home on the last day of the season, for goodness sake. So, I mean, a draw would do Arsenal in terms of guaranteeing them Champions League. Though at home they're looking for better than that. I honestly think, and I would accept this. I think it'll be a draw, and I would accept that. I know that wouldn't get with second top, but I'm not going to cry in bite the pillow on Sunday night if we're not second top. If we are, I'll be ecstatic, and I can see that happening. But if I was absolutely having to be nailed on, because while we say that Arsenal have only won 3 out of their last 11, um, they are second and we are third, and they've only lost 4 games, Andrew, and we've lost 10. Now, the reason, and there's only 2 points between us, and they've lost 4 and we've lost 10. The reason why they're not miles ahead of us is they've drawn far too many. They've drawn 13. And I think this will be another draw.
I would certainly take a draw, most certainly. I think anybody would. It would be a decent point. I've just gone back and checked what I had down for my predicted results in terms of the league table that I did. So you might remember, guys, I did a video and an episode on the podcast where I took our league table predictor to see what the final table of the season would look like. This was 1 month ago. And my league table at that point in time, I'm just going to get the current one up just to see how it looks. Just let's see how I did. I know John did one as well. So I had Liverpool obviously finishing top, Arsenal finishing second on 81 points. So that one's gone for a burn because that's not happening. Forest I had finishing third. That's not going to happen on 72. I had Newcastle, interestingly, John, finishing fourth on 69 points. So to my memory, I must have had them losing to Brighton and losing to Arsenal, but winning their home games, which, I guess if you're a person who looks a bit pessimistically at this game on Sunday, you might say an Arsenal win. But you know what, John? I've got a feeling that Newcastle are going to do it. I genuinely think it is just the perfect time to play Arsenal. I think half the battle's already been won because Arteta has just totally lost his head. He's feeling the pressure. They're missing some big players. Even if they get Havertz and Rice back, they're still without Gabriel, who I think's been the biggest loss to them. No Mourinho because he's suspended. Newcastle United, okay, are probably, as we say, relying on Botman to be back to really have the best chance of winning this game. But I still think they're going to do it. So I would take a point if it was guaranteed right now, most certainly, because that leaves us in a really good position ahead of the final game of the season. But I think they're going to beat them. I think it's going to be close, but I
It
think
will be close.
2-1
I
Newcastle.
hope you're right. I hope you're right. When you asked me to do my predictions to get a final table, um, I took us to remain unbeaten for the rest of the season. This was after Aston Villa when I did my table. You did yours before Aston Villa, I think. Mine was after. And I took with the draw at Brighton and the draw at Arsenal. And I'm going to stay with that. Um, Although I'm desperate, it goes without saying, for us to win it. And I can see we're winning it without a shadow of doubt. And I think, like you, this is as good an opportunity as any. Can I say we're beating Arsenal 4 times out of 4 in one season? Wouldn't it be wonderful? I mean, 3 out of 3 has been fantabulous. I think it'll be a draw. I'm hoping for better, but I think it'll be a draw. And I tell you what, if we draw against Arsenal and we beat Everton, we might finish third. And by the way, that's off pretty good, you know. So the one thing we're both saying is we're not going to get beat.
Yeah. And that's what we'd take, most certainly. Let us know in the comments your thoughts. How are you predicting Sunday to go? Thank you, as always, to John for providing the match preview. Thank you to you guys for watching and listening. Do hit thumbs up. Do hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Do get into the comments. Do leave us a rating and review on the audio-only platform. Thank you to NordVPN. Thank you to Crown Trade for sponsoring us. And for myself and John, we will see you in the studio next week to preview Newcastle United versus Everton, the last game of this campaign. Hopefully one that finishes not only with a cup, but also Champions League. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Fingers crossed it's at least a point for Newcastle down at the Emirates. And me and John will see you next week.